Oh, yeah, let's get a little modcast going here on a Tuesday. That would mean that needs to be popped up. There it is. Shout out to Daily and Black, the sponsor of the modcast each and every week. If you need lawyers that are going to be on your side, Daily and Black will definitely take care of you. Let's throw that logo up for you. If you want to scan that QR code, go right ahead. Shout out to Daily and Black, and shout out to the mods. They are here. Jason Sukamel is here. Anwar Richardson is here. And I think it's this Alex Dunlap, however that would work, is here as well. And we'll talk a little CFP rankings because tonight is the night. Whatever Texas is going to get off of beating A&M, it happens tonight. What will this committee do? We will dig into that. Last week, gentlemen, they were 16th in the CFP. Nobody had a win even comparable to what Texas did last week. So I'm really interested to see just what this committee wants to do. Let's go around the discussion here. I got a crazy plan to even get them up as high as 10 or 9. We'll get into that.
But I want to hear that.
Yeah, but for you guys, let me start with you, Alex, because I know you're so into the X's and O's and the breakdowns of things, but I know you're peeking at this stuff too. So for you, after what you saw, where does it go from 16? Like how much of a bump do you think Texas is going to get from beating the Aggies?
Well, I don't have the exact list sort of in front of, like you said, I've been doing the breakdowns of the game, so I don't have the exact list completely memorized. I have in front of them, but as I've gone through the mental exercises and just kind of looked at things and how I think that the committee is going to do it, I think they probably get bumped to 12. I think that it could be they get bumped to 11, and I think that it's probably going to be. I think that it's a stretch for them to get bumped. I think it's a stretch for them to get bumped to 10.
Alex, I threw it up there for you just so you can see where it was last week.
Yeah, I think it's a stretch for them to get bumped to 10.
Gotcha. Anwar, you agree with that?
Because I just like they've showed us the whole time that it feels like to me that the conversation now has become between Notre Dame and Miami, and they've had Texas. So correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I just got to thinking they've showed us this whole time that they prefer Notre Dame in its current state to Texas in its current state. I'm not sure that the win against A&M will propel them above those guys, right? And so even if it did for some reason, you just figure that there's a possibility that maybe they would, if they had Miami over them, that would be the way that they could do that possibly for Texas. But then there's some kind of head-to-head with Florida that might come in if Miami were to kind of assume that mantle. So for me, it's like, unless they want to just go into those pointers and those things that they've looked at and say, the stuff that everyone was tweeting out yesterday about their core philosophies and everything like that. Like, it's like what Sark's out here saying right now. It's like, are they going to look at just the win-loss record? Or are they going to look at like the whole body of work? And, Sark's going through the car wash right now, just telling everybody everything he can all about this stuff. I think that the committee would be wise to listen to him and to maybe just, think about this from a different way. But the fact of the matter is these are unserious people and they're volunteers who are in charge of a $25 billion industry. And they need to have a better process. They need to have better people, and they need to do it different. The CFP, as it is, even if Texas were to make it in, I would say that they're cockamamie because they've been such complete hypocrites through the whole process.
All right, Anwar. So Texas got bumped 7 spots down when they lost at Georgia. They beat the Aggies like that. You saw it live. How far up?
I think maybe 13 is the best I can see, the best case scenario I would see from here. Michigan loses. They were at 15, so Michigan's out, right? So right. I could do my mental gymnastics and say 15-ish. You might be in the committee to say, you know what, Vanderbilt, or you can maybe tell yourself, okay, Texas needs to be ranked ahead of Vanderbilt. And you might be able to move in front of a Utah. But then I think then you get into the trouble area, I think, Chad, and Jason and I was talking about this earlier, which is Miami sitting there at 12. For as much of a gripe as Texas fans might have about the rankings, Miami sitting down there in Coral Gables like, excuse me, why the hell is Notre Dame ranked ahead of us when we beat them not only head to head, but we look at common opponents, Miami has performed better. So, now at that point, I don't know if you can overcorrect, because Miami's, if Sark is going through the car wash and complaining, I've heard, I don't want to say complain, that's not a fair way to say it, but making his case. Cristobal has been making his case for Miami, and he was making his case yesterday as well. So that's where I struggle a little bit there. Chad, you already got the Texas case here, but Miami has a case as well. We don't know why BYU is where they're at this moment. And I don't know where you go from as far as, Bama. You can't get in front of Bama because Bama's playing in the SEC championship game. And so, them positioning Notre Dame where they have, do they overcorrect? So for me, as well, as good as of a win that it is, if I just look at the committee in the way the corner that they've painted themselves into, I'd be shocked if Texas is above 13.
Interesting. Okay, Jason, is there a number in your head that where you think it's going to land?
I am in lockstep with Anwar on this. I want to hear your plan. I'm fascinated how you get him in the top 10.
Oh, I got a kooky plan. Yeah. I got a kooky committee plan.
I want to hear yours. Yours is more interesting than mine. But Michigan's out, like Anwar said. Are they going to then jump Texas over Vanderbilt? Maybe. Vanderbilt had an impressive win at Tennessee last week. Are they going to jump Texas over Utah? They should. They should. Okay, so that gets them up to 14. 13 if they put them above Vanderbilt. I don't think they put them above Miami. I don't think they move them up. BYU's number 11. I think BYU's a sham. They shouldn't be up there, but they are. I think Texas probably comes in at 14. I think 13 realistically is about the best case scenario. I don't agree with it. I'm not saying I agree with some of these rankings because, again, I think BYU, Utah, I think Texas is better than Miami if they played on a neutral field. We saw them, of course, what happened with Oklahoma. Vanderbilt, but I think they moved up only 2 spots. You got to remember in the AP and the coaches polls, each of them only moved them up, Texas up to 14. So I'm expecting similar results in the college football playoff rankings tonight, maybe getting them up to 13 if they drop Utah like they should.
All right, fellas, let's get kooky. Would all of you agree with me that the committee wants Notre Dame in?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
That they're in no matter what, right?
I can't say no matter what, but they certainly want them in.
Yeah, I have that feeling. I can make arguments, Alex. Again, I could say put Texas up at 9 and Notre Dame's not a guarantee, but let's not even get that silly. Let's say Notre Dame is in no matter what. To me, the committee needs to think about a few things before that last ranking. Number 1, they have to leave as much space as they can between Notre Dame and Miami so that the game doesn't matter, because they've told us that game doesn't matter. They need it to really not matter. So they got to keep those 2 apart. Number 2, they have to plan for a scenario where BYU beats Tech to get an extra, because then they'll need another spot. They also have to prepare for the idea that they're going to have to tell Bama.
Hold on. Sorry, Chad. Can you explain what you just said about BYU?
Yeah, because wouldn't that just be a reshuffling within that top 10 or so of BYU?
Are you saying that Tech is going to have to be in and BYU is going to have to be in at that point?
Correct. Okay. If BYU beats Tech, you're at 2 11-1 teams playing, but the notion has been that if Tech beats BYU again, BYU will be out. But the question the committee needs to ask itself is, wait a minute, what if BYU wins? And moreover, what if Bama wins too? Because then you're going to have to find an extra spot. So my thought for the committee would be this. Take Texas. They just had a win nobody else would have. Plus, this is not the actual last ranking. But send some messages. Message 1, Sark, we hear you. Texas goes to 10. Takes the spot from Bama. Slide Bama down, and you send Bama a clear message. fellas, if you lose to Georgia, that's 3, and we might have to kick you out of this thing. Just saying. Just saying. BYU, your message is clear too. That would tell BYU, got to win, or we may kick you out as well. And like I said earlier, keep the space between Notre Dame and Miami, because they have no intention of putting Miami in this bracket. None. They do not want the Hurricanes in, no matter what Mario Cristobal says. Plus the jump over Utah, Vandy. I think that's fairly easy to explain. You got a head-to-head with Vandy that can help Texas, and the Utah thing's fairly simple. So I think if they really wanted to like make everybody's eyes pop a little on the next to last week, they move Texas up to a spot like that, because there's a few things in that last week that could get a little crazy. Because my thought experiment for everybody is what happens if BYU and Bama both win? Who's out? Who's out at that point? They may have to kick OU out.
None. I mean, here's
right?
I hear what you're no, because what you're saying goes against what the committee has told us in previous years. The committee has told us in previous years that they don't like to penalize teams that lose in a conference championship game. They feel like if they're playing a 13th game and other programs are sitting at home, well, the program that's sitting at home shouldn't be the benefactor of the team that advanced further. So while I hear what you're saying about some of these things that could happen, BYU or the Bamas of the world, that would be against what the conference. Now, I'm not saying the conference is consistent in any way. Like, so don't get me wrong.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, if the challenge to what your scenario is, if conference championship games become the game that results in my team missing the playoffs, then you've got coaches saying, well, we should get rid of that. When you say we should get rid of that, what you're basically saying is we should get rid of an extra paycheck, which no conference is going to want to do, because they want the AT&T, T-Mobile, whatever sponsored of these things. So the challenge of it is the committee really going to penalize a team for playing a 13th game and reward a team that wasn't even able to get that far? Typically, the committee said that's not what they like to do.
Yeah. So then for you, Anwar, just the quick follow-up. Do you think BYU and Bama are in no matter what?
Yeah.
Oh, no. BYU can't be in no matter what. Are you kidding? They can't be in no matter what.
I mean, they've already positioned BYU. Alex, I do want to hear what you have to say. They've positioned BYU in a good position to make it in, right? I'm not saying they will, but they've positioned them. Now, maybe they lose, they're out. You might be more right than I am in this situation. I do believe Bama's in, and I do believe Bama's in. No matter what.
If Bama loses in the, they're not gonna penalize an SEC team in this year's SEC, or maybe in a year's SEC, just fearing the wrath of Sankey for going to the SEC championship and losing. It's not going to happen. It just isn't going to happen. I don't think it would happen in this year. It doesn't even matter. But I don't think even in a relatively down year for the Big Ten that would happen. We saw last year in the ACC that they didn't let it happen with SMU, right?
Correct.
And it feels like maybe that could have been a time wherever they maybe learned their lesson a little bit about these Big 12s, these ACCs, all the rest of it. We know it's a super, super down year for the ACC this year, but I don't see the Big 12 as a league where, especially in this season, if you just look at the strength of record, strength of schedule, all the rest of this stuff, you take the projections of what all the models say about who would win on a neutral field favorability. I don't think that they're going to in any way say that we're not going to punish BYU if they lose a second game to Texas Tech. Whenever it feels to me like they're not playing, it's not like they could just walk away from that game, right, and be in the same way that SMU could have walked away from that game last year and been in. BYU, the way I see it, needs to win that game to get in.
Yeah,
and so I think if Tech loses, it's harder to keep them out.
Yeah, they feel like they're in. Boy, there's a lot of teams rooting for Texas Tech. There are a lot of Red Raider fans this weekend across the country. All right, well, I see that super chat. We will get to it. Also, there's a big follow-up question coming. If Anwar's right, I want to know who's out of the 12 if Anwar's right about BYU and Alabama. We will get to that after we take a breath, and I'll tell you about all kinds of good breaths I've been taking, breathing breaths. Yeah. With sinus and snoring specialists, this is the place that can fix all of your well, not every problem, but the problems with sinus, allergies, snoring, sleep apnea, all that stuff. Holidays are upon us. You're traveling around. I just did it for Thanksgiving. Y'all did too. Go sleep in a strange bed. Go sleep at grandma's house. Go sleep somewhere you're not used to sleeping. Did you get a good night's sleep? Nothing worse than sleeping like crap during the holidays. Make sure your holidays in the future are clear and restful with sinus and snoring specialists. 601-0303. Securely call or text on that number, or just go to sinussnoringent.com. Start looking at those videos, the information they have. They will take care of you. Feel clear, rested, and healthy with sinus and snoring specialists. And be sure to tell them you heard about it here on OB Live. All right. So if Anwar's right and Bama and BYU are in fact, let's not even talk about them losing. Let's say they both win. BYU beats Texas Tech. They're in. So is Tech. Bama beats Georgia. They're in. So is Georgia. Who's out? At that point, who do you tell goodbye?
Notre Dame.
You think Notre Dame's the one?
Yeah.
Could be. I think it might be OU. I think Brent Venables might get a bye-bye there.
Could it be Ole Miss with no coach?
No,
Ooh.
people keep saying that in the chat. They can't penalize Ole Miss for that. No way, dude.
I hadn't even thought of that, Alex. I don't think they get kicked all the way out of the playoff for not having Lane. That's a wild thought, though.
Well, I mean, it's like, I know it's different. It's a 12-team versus a 4-team, but they've done it because of a quarterback with Jordan Travis before.
Yeah, that's different. The level of play fell off 100 degrees, 180
degrees. Ole Miss has a coach. You know,
oh, right. But
right. They do have a coach. So
but not their head coach or their play caller on offense and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like there's going to be some scrambling to be able to figure out a game plan, and like throws a pretty big wrench and stuff. If all of a sudden, if all of a sudden Sark and Flood and everybody leaves, and AJ Milwauee's up there having to just run the whole team. It's a better analog would be that PK is now the head coach, and
that's just desperate. That sounds like desperation from Texas fans. They're not going to penalize Ole Miss and drop them out of the rankings.
Ole Miss hired a permanent coach, right? So that ends that Pete Golding. I can't tell you that can tell you everything I need to know about Pete Golding, but I know he was on the staff. He's been elevated, so they can feel like, okay, they've got a lot of things in place. I think Ole Miss is safe, in that regard. It just becomes what is more about, for me, Chad, what dominoes would have to fall really for Texas to get in. And I heard your scenario, right? But yeah, I think I agree with Alex. I do agree with Alex. Bama, even if they lose, hard to drop them out. It's
impossible. Yeah.
Yeah. It would. Right. Could you imagine? They don't want to get. You want Nick Saban every day, like talking about this crap about his former team. Right. The BYU one is the interesting one, and again, they've already put. Brett Yormark was out, beating the drum this morning about BYU and how he feels their strength of schedule and trying to somewhat compare it to almost Notre Dame at that point, because BYU and Notre Dame would be at 10-2. And like, what do you do with those two things? And then now you got to look at those records and strength of schedules and all that kind of stuff. And I believe BYU technically has a better strength of schedule than Notre Dame does. It may not matter, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that is going to be – it will be interesting to see just where they – what they would choose to do there. We got some super chats in. Let's get this conversation into the super chats, and we'll keep it rolling. $9.99 from Matthew. I don't think Texas is a playoff team, but in the final rankings, Texas should absolutely be above Utah, Vandy, and BYU if they get blown out again. They have one good win combined. I I would agree with Matthew on that. I just want to see, I just want to see if this committee is really going to give Texas the love off of beating the Aggies. For the record, guys, what I said earlier about putting Texas up at that 10 spot, I still don't think it would get them in. It would just maybe at least send a message on the next to last one that, hey, weird things could happen. But I think the only way that Texas could get a good look at this thing is if Georgia beats Bama like 58-10. Like Kirby's gonna have to absolutely.
Is Kalen DeBoer not? Is Kalen DeBoer not coaching, or is Bama not going to play and they're going to replace it with another program?
Right. And by the way, Lane Kiffin gets a bonus for every touchdown Georgia scored. No, that's not true. But yeah, that's the only path I can see because we know Oklahoma's in the way. Like that's kind of the team I see. That's
how do you again with none of these teams? We'll see tonight. They haven't positioned Texas to a place where they can make that jump in yet.
Correct.
I think that's on purpose, Almar.
Yeah, they've kept Texas on the outside. On the outside, and so all these things. It's what's interesting before if you don't add in the A&M win, everything that you're mentioning was on a lot of these things that you're mentioning, Chad, was on the table before last week's rankings, and they still ranked Texas 16. So it still seems like in their mind, they went into that room thinking this is what we think of Texas, and again, they would have to. Kind of like BYU's position to get in, right? They would have to move Texas to a point where they can jump some of these teams that aren't going to be playing because Texas is not going to be playing. Oklahoma's not going to be playing. Some of these teams that you're mentioning, they're not going to be playing. Utah's not going to be playing. So how do you jump over if you're all a dormant? How do you jump in that scenario?
Yeah. To me, I want again. It should be a big data point. It should be with what they just did. They beat an undefeated number 3 team in a rival game by 10. It was no doubt by the end of it. And to me, if you only slide them up 1 or 2, it's just, I don't know. To me, you're not sending the right message. And
the thing is, this is where I felt a little weird last week when Texas fans kept saying, A&M hasn't played anybody. Look at the guys that they've lost to. If you combine their records, they played against teams that have losing records. Like A&M hasn't played anyone of significance. I'm like, that argument works against you because if you beat someone who you say is overranked,
that's true.
And that doesn't necessarily help you with the argument. You would have been better off saying, "Damn, A&M's so amazing."
Right.
But you can't say A&M has played nobody of consequence. Everybody they played that has a losing record and say, but we should be rewarded for beating the team that we said is overrated all year long. It's like, got to be careful.
Anwar, you doing the shows with those boxing or the boxing feel to those belts behind you. I always think of that in boxing. If you tell me the guy you're fighting sucks for 2 months and then you knock him out, am I supposed to be impressed? Because you told me he sucked for 2 months. You ripped on him and then you knocked him out.
Hey, Anwar, I'm kind of a belief, a little conspiracy theory here, but they've got Texas at 16. Last week, they moved Texas up 1 spot after beating Arkansas handily. They got leapfrogged by Michigan, which was ridiculous. Michigan had beaten Maryland the week before. And they moved up 3 spots somehow by beating Maryland.
I love conspiracy theories.
Well, they knew Michigan was probably going to lose to Ohio State, so they knew they were going to fall out. I think the committee doesn't want to have Texas at 12 or 11 certainly, because then the cries and the discussion of it gets louder and louder. Should Texas be in? Should Texas be in? If they put them at 14 this week or tonight, then that discussion kind of goes away. You're like, okay, Texas doesn't have a prayer in hell at this point, right? So I was surprised at last week's ranking, and it just kind of feels almost like they want to keep Texas as far away from legitimate consideration of being in as possible, just to kind of keep some of the chatter and some of the talk down. Maybe I'll be wrong tonight, but that's another reason I'm almost expecting Texas to be at 14. Like I said, I'll go 13, but that's as high as I'm willing to go.
All right, we got some more super chats rolling in here. Let's see what we got. This is Owen with a $5. How can you punish BYU but not Bama for losing conference championship if that is the committee's credo? Owen
sucks. They got thumped by Texas Tech for the first time. They haven't played anything. They've beaten one ranked opponent. They beat who did I see?
What are they? Yeah,
Utah,
they're 1-1.
Utah.
Utah. Thank you. Beat Utah.
1-1 against ranked teams. 0-1 against the top 10. Obviously, with the Tech loss.
Yeah,
But Owen, in theory, Owen, you're bringing up a point. Anwar mentioned Brett Yormark. That's what Yormark's been talking about. Heck, I heard Joey McGuire say it. Talking about these two teams. Oh, I absolutely think they're both in the playoff because that's the politicking that he needs to do right now.
Yeah. Everybody's politicking.
Oh yeah, everybody's got their stumping going on right now. 5 from hit another one, guys. I went and saw my tarot card reader. I'm sorry. She says Texas is out unless they drop Vandy and Notre Dame.
Well, Texas is going to be above Vanderbilt. I think that's a lock.
I don't know that that's a lock, Alex.
Is it a lock, Alex?
I mean, I think so. I could be wrong, but
it could happen. But I certainly wouldn't call it a lot. I mean, Vandy beat a good Tennessee team on the road last week. You're going to punish them for that?
Yeah. What you need to
I think what they do is they say, well, Texas had a better win and Texas beat Vanderbilt.
It's possible. It's certainly possible.
You need to have them care about
Alex. I don't. So I don't 100% disagree with you. The thing is that's interesting is that they could also say, how sometimes you can tell yourself the things that you want to see or hear or believe and kind of convince yourself. The committee could also, if they want Vanderbilt high, they could say, well, you know what? Vanderbilt was on the road. They fought back and they were with one onside recovery of potentially, getting the ball back and tying that game. So they can say that's not a bad loss. And the thing is, Jason is pointing this out. They can also say, yeah, but that Georgia thing just happened just a couple of weeks ago, and it's still kind of fresh in our mind. And we're still just thinking about that, and we just don't know what to make of this Texas team. And then they could also say, this Texas team hasn't really played well on the road.
All right, so I get that. I'm just saying, I feel like maybe we're just thinking about it from two different ways. You're thinking about it from a way of you obviously believe that, like I believe that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that the committee's fraudulent, and that
I will say I don't trust the committee.
Okay, so all right, you don't
never have. I've always been consistent on that.
You don't trust the committee. I go farther than that to say I don't not just trust the committee. I think the committee's terrible. They're cockamamie and they're fraudulent.
Okay,
but unlike Anwar, I don't necessarily think through the lens of thinking from their trying to get into their head and think about the idea that they have it out to make sure that Texas doesn't beat Vandy. I don't think that. I mean, maybe they do, but to me, it seems like if they were thinking about it logically, if I were thinking about it just completely logically, I would say Texas beat Vanderbilt. And Texas, as far as this recent win, we have to have them. Dude, teams have beat teams like A&M this year and have jumped up like 7 spots, 8 spots. If they're going to have Texas jump, if they're going to have them jump even more than 2 spots from this thing, they're going to have to jump Vanderbilt. And
or Utah.
What I would tell the committee to do is I would say put Texas above any team you have no intention of putting in this bracket. And I know they would say to me, come on, Chad, we think of it differently every week. And I'd say, right, sure you do. But I would just tell them, if you have no intention of putting Miami in, put Texas above Miami. If you have no intention of putting Vanderbilt in, like, is there even a universe where you think Vanderbilt is in this bracket? If they would say, well, no, like, okay, we'll put Texas above them. There's a head-to-head. There's, listen to Sark and go with the top 10 teams and then use that on the ESPN show tonight and explain it that way. Give Texas some love for this win. It's just about impossible the way they've set it up for them to get Texas in. Again, we're trying to find a path. I can't find one. But I think in this next to last week, at least send the message that you sort of paid attention when Texas did that to A&M. I just think you need to show you're kind of paying attention to games like that.
Anwar makes a good point. Like, Texas beat Vanderbilt. They got head-to-head. We get that, okay? But it was in Austin. Texas plays well in Austin. If that game's in Nashville, is Texas going to win that game? Does that mean Texas is a better team just because they beat them at home? And no, if I'm looking at it objectively, the answer is no. Texas has not played well on the road against teams far worse than Vanderbilt. There's no guarantee that they'd beat Vanderbilt at Vandy.
Yeah.
And yeah, they controlled that game for 3 quarters, but the bottom line, guys, is they won the game by 3 points. And Vanderbilt doesn't have the bad loss. Their schedule hadn't been as tough as what Texas has played, but Vanderbilt doesn't have that Florida loss on its ledger. They've taken care of the teams they're supposed to take care of. So, I mean, I could see a case, Alex, because, recency bias matters. So Texas coming off a big win against A&M, knocking off an undefeated A&M. I can certainly see, I'd almost put it at about 50-50, honestly, Texas being above Vanderbilt. But you can make a pretty strong case that Vanderbilt deserves to hold on to that spot too.
And the thing is, just related to that too, and again, what I'm saying is not what I think should happen. I'm just saying, like, if the committee wants to go that way, this is the same committee which I said a little while ago. We can talk about head to head. Well, Miami's looks at Notre Dame and they're like, we won head to head. We got the same record and we're behind this program. So you can have the head to head, but hell, the committee is telling us that head to head doesn't even matter. Yeah. They're literally looking at 2 teams with identical records and like, yeah, this team's better. And I know you may say, well, one loss happened earlier and so on and so. Okay, but if that's the tiebreaker, which is always it's supposed to be, and the committee's not even going to use it for that, I have no faith or trust that they'll say, well, you know what, these teams are close. Let's go for a head-to-head. I can see them saying, well, because you ever hear them, Alex, do you ever listen to some of the interviews with the chairperson, like after?
Depends on what chairperson. They keep getting fired for being terrible individuals, like Matt.
Fair enough, but they all not the guy, not the clown who's doing 6'7", right? But all of them, right? So all the clowns, it sounds like they're just making it up answers as they're giving it to you.
They're not serious people, Anwar. They're not football people. They aren't. They're athletic directors. They're business people. They're used to dealing with stakeholders, and they're used to shaking hands and kissing babies and caring as much about the equestrian sports or whatever the revenue sports. Like these are unserious people. These are volunteers. They are not football people. None of this makes any sense. None of it does.
Yeah, which is why I don't trust them.
Yeah, well, I think you're exactly. I think you have great instincts.
There's some good super chats we will get to. That's a fantastic line.
I mean, the nicest thing Alex has ever said about me.
I was gonna say, I wasn't gonna say that, but I mean, it sounded good. All right, let's take another one of our great partners here. We give a little love to AV Consultations. If you need a new TV setup, bigger screen, better screen, multiple screens, this is your place. If you went to grandma's over Thanksgiving and you realized, oh my God, grandma got an 80-inch television, do not let grandma outscreen you. Get it taken care of. 255-8678. They've been doing this since 1988, locally owned and operated. Let them handle every detail, including buying that new TV you may be looking at. Don't go to the big box store, try to be an expert. Turn to these experts, 255-8678, or go to avconsultations.com. Tell them you heard about it here on OB Live. We certainly appreciate you for that, and we appreciate everybody jumping in the specs chat.
By the way, did you see that Vanderbilt distributed something about their CFP case as well?
No, did they? Diego's out there politicking too?
Well, probably not his brothers. His brother's still locked up.
That'd be the worst ambassador you could have, is have his brother doing the
not that guy.
Okay, I'm gonna leave the other stuff out. But yeah, even Vanderbilt gave out their case. Here, I'll send it to you guys in the Slack channel. I mean, everybody's making their case right now.
Hey, got to do it. It's up until they call for that bracket to start. It is a judged event. It is a pageant, and everybody's got to be out there doing what Sark did. Make your case, make your argument, because there just aren't enough spots.
What Stark continues to do, I think he has more interviews on tap for today too, as well. So
yeah. No, it is an argument he's got to try to make and see if it works. Jay for 10. Thank you, Jay. If I remember correctly, OU under Riley lost 2 years in a row in the CFP and got left out the next year because of it. Kind of seems like the committee wants to give someone else a shot after seeing us lose 2 years in a row. Oh, I don't know that. I don't think that's it, Jay. I think they'd love to have Texas in.
I mean, Texas was in the semifinals, and now we're in the 12 team. I think you're talking about an era of like 4 teams, right? So I don't think that's it.
If there's one thing, I don't think fatigue for a brand name like Texas is going to exist. If they can put somebody like Texas in, they'll do it. It's just a matter of now trying to find the argument. But like the guys,
if there's anything that's working against Texas, it is the high expectations that were placed upon them going into the season, and then being penalized maybe in season for not living up to those expectations.
The other thing I keep going back to, Anwar, when I hear Steve Sarkisian, and I understand why he says it, but when he says, if we're just going to go off records, I need to reassess how I think about non-conference. And all I thought of was Bill Parcells. You are what your record says you are, not your strength of record, not your strength of schedule. It's college football, man. Sark's been involved here.
That was NFL, Chad. Like that's NFL. You are not what your record says you are in college football. You are in the NFL.
Right. But in college, Alex, it's got to be made to look pretty. College football has never been about, man, remember that year that 9-3 team really went through the playoff? That's not how it works. Go back and look at any rankings you want. Everybody is 11-1, 12-0. Nobody usually has 3 losses. And that's the crime at the end. That's what they have to figure out. Altogether, you just can't lose 3. I wish it was different. I wish it was more NFL-ish. It's not.
So the thing is, a couple of things. I posted something on the board just to kind of reminder of folks. And it is when Sark talks about, okay, they have to reassess their schedule. I think people have to also understand that doesn't mean that you can now just take Ohio State off the schedule and put in Prairie View, okay? Because the SEC rules state that of your 3 non-conference games, at least one has to be versus a P4 school or Notre Dame. So you could say you remove them, but it has to be P4. So then at that point, when people say, let's remove Ohio State. Well, okay, it's not that easy because you would have to replace it with another P4 school. Then you'd have to find what you would consider to be a winnable P4 school. So you got to go to your Purdue's or your NC States, right? Or your Minnesotas or your Northwesterns of the world, so on and so forth. Well, most of those programs are already going to have their non-conference schedules set in years in advance, just like you. So the odds of you saying, I can take this program out, now you can add in UTSA tomorrow, but they're not P4. So the issue is that in order to do that, it's going to be hard. Because quite honestly, to drop it, you would have to have 2 teams really mutually agreeing to drop something. But more than likely, if you're Ohio State, you're like, we're not taking a check. So that's the issue. Like they're probably locked in.
So for Ohio State, they're certainly locked in. But for the future stuff with the there was somebody on the board. Like that's one of the great things about Orange Bloods. You have people who just have looked into this. And if you look at the Notre Dame, the future Notre Dame games, they listed like 6 Power 4 appealing opponents that do have openings that are like the NC States, like schools like that. So it could not be Ohio State that there's nothing you can do about that now. I don't think, as Orange just said, but for everything moving forward into the future, from what I saw posted on Orange Bloods and made sense to me. I wish I had the post so I could pull it up, but it seems like they could get out of the rest. And if they're looking to send a message, I mean, it's people are going to say that's take your ball and go home. But I just say it's like, hey, dude, sometimes people force you to take your ball and go home. Think
about this. Alex Cody posted this on the board today, and which was, Alabama today dropped USF from the 2026 schedule. On the surface, like, okay, well, that doesn't qualify in front of Power 4 because they still got FSU in 2026. But we both know that USF is a scrappy team, that they'll give you a run. They've been very competitive against Alabama. And if you're Bama, you're like, man, why would we even take this risk? So they replaced USF, I think, with Chattanooga. and said, it's just forward thinking. So this is a group of 5 program, even though they lost their coach, still a little dangerous. Mm-hmm. So like you said, it might be the start of stuff. Like you said, it may not be the next 2 years, Ohio State, but past that, and definitely past Notre Dame, look, nothing like Northwestern in the wintertime is all I got to say.
You just call Ohio State, tell them the situation, and then ask for Purdue's number at the end of the conversation. That's what you can do. Well, so here's a couple teams I looked at. Texas and Bama have similar non-conference coming up. You just mentioned what Bama got rid of, Anwar, but they've got Florida State. They've got a home and home with Ohio State set up in a couple years, and then they go to Notre Dame. Texas, we know what they have. Ohio State, Michigan, 2 with Notre Dame. But I looked at a couple other teams. A&M, next 4 years. Arizona State, home and home, and Louisville, home and home. Georgia, Louisville, Florida State, Clemson in a combination. OU's going to go at Michigan, but then it's SMU and San Diego State. It's U of H and Colorado State, and then San Diego State on the road. LSU's doing Clemson, U of H, SMU, and then SMU, Arizona State. So for you guys, if it could all be done, if you could snap your fingers and everything got worked out, and you replaced the Ohio State game, the Michigan game, both in Austin, and replaced both home and homes with Notre Dame, would you do it? Would you do it today? Jason, I'll start with you.
That's the smart business decision, but I don't love it. Here's the deal. Don't lose to a shitty Florida team, and none of this matters. Or like I said on Onwar Show this morning, if you win that game, it gives you the buffer that if you do drop a game to a Florida, you're still in. If Texas had beaten Ohio State and lost to Florida, they're in right now. Mm-hmm. I get it. I understand why, Sark's brought it up and why people are saying to do it, because it can certainly penalize you, but there can be benefits to playing those types of games too. And you are going to take some backlash from just media, fans, whatever, for, taking the easy way out. But you just are for, avoiding competition. So
I would take it in a heartbeat. I drop them in a heartbeat. What they're saying is, and look, there's an old saying. It's simple, but it makes sense. Been saying it for the last week or so. You got to work smarter and not harder. And Texas right now is working harder, especially when you go to non-conference games next year, plus the Ohio State. You're working harder. Everybody else is working smarter. They're saying like, hey, man, we don't need this smoke. And I know, Jason and I joked about it. I was like, Indiana had no problems doing that. And I know, okay, they're Indiana, but no one's talking about Indiana's schedule. You know what they're saying? Indiana's the number 2 team in the country right now. Mm-hmm. At some point, forget the bravado, forget ego, and forget what other people say. You got to work smarter, not harder. If the committee's telling you it's all about 10 wins, if we're only going to pick from the programs that have 10 wins or above, well, then you got to do what it takes to get to 10. And you can't beat your chest and say, nah. We're going to face all the killers that are out there. No, you don't. No, you don't have to. There's a Boston College in your life. There's a Minnesota that's in your life. There's a Purdue there's a Wake Forest for everybody. Okay. You ain't gotta kill yourself. I would do it in a heartbeat, because the committee's saying get to 10. That's what matters the most.
Yeah. Alex, real quick, you need to roll.
Yeah, I gotta get out, but I'll get out with this. I'm with Anwar. I would do it, and I would not listen to what other fan bases had to say about it. They say that these guys are wusses and they're soft and all the rest of it. Say, look at your games. Look at your out of conference games. If you want to call Texas soft, let's take a look at your schedule. Let's take a look at what you've been able to do against top 10 teams and all the rest. But the real reason that I would do it is to cause a huge stink, to put a huge turd in the punch bowl for this idiotic committee. Let the world see what you guys have done. It has the possibility of really damaging football unless you make fundamental changes and you go by the philosophies that you espouse are the ones that you go by. You hire serious people, you hire qualified people, and you actually do this the right way, because otherwise you're creating all these unintended consequences that so many people warned us about that could happen to college football because of this 12-team playoff. They're actively doing it. And if I was Texas, I would just let them know, look, you're on a real pathway to screw this thing up bad because of your complete idiocy and hypocrisy, and you're not going by the standards that you say that you are here to uphold. So for that reason, we're going to do something that could set off a domino effect to fundamentally change football unless you change, because you're the idiots here, not us. All right, I got to get out, fellas. I will see y'all next time, okay?
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, Alex.
I like that. Get out. Get after the committee on this.
And by the way, I see when Rex he said Alex and I need to go, and he's like, you said we got to get that softness out of here. I think it's not about softness, it's about being smart, because you know what being hard has got you at 9-3, and your coach is up here on every damn show trying to convince people why the team needs to be in there. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
This whole we're going to take on the world thing, that sounds great. But what has taking on the world really done for you? You're in the SEC. That's hard enough. The SEC is hard enough. That gauntlet in itself is 9 games. You got 16 teams that are going through this. And everybody else is not facing what you guys and everyone else is facing. So at that point, if 9 games is going to be a killer, when you look at the schedules that lies ahead, when you got to have the Georgias on future schedules and Tennessees and Georgias of the world and Ole Miss, and now LSU is next year, you don't need to kill yourself. This will take you run the SEC, you at least give yourself a margin of error, Chad, where if you lose 1 or 2 games in the SEC, you're still at 10-2. And you can still make the playoffs. And outside of that, cool. You're tough. You're taking on all these teams. That's great. I'll see you in Orlando at the Cheez-It Bowl, and we can talk about how badass that really was. Or we're going to be in the NIT of bowl games at this point. Like, the hell with that. It work smarter, not harder. That's what I got to say. All right, sorry, Rex. I still love you, though.
It's all right. We got some super chats we will get. Shout out to Specs for bringing us the chat. Let's hear from Specs.
In the wintry land of Specksville, neath the big Texas sky, spirits are lifted and glasses raised high. With whiskeys and wines and champagnes that pop, Specs is the place where the fun doesn't stop. From cocktails that sparkle to snacks that amaze, Specs brings the merry to all festive days. For thousands of ways to spread holiday cheer, come visit Specksville. The fun starts here.
Love going to Specksville. They're always drinking in Specksville. All right, let's grab some super chats here. I think I saw there it is. Barb's 10 jumping in with a $19.99. Thank you, Barb's. Committee equals unqualified cowards working overtime to keep Texas out, and it's blatantly obvious. It's cockamamie to think Texas is not better than any team in the top 12. Less 3 losses and point differential are not prerequisites listed anywhere.
Any team? Georgia's in the top 12.
This kind of brings up a question for me, guys. I'll ask both of you. I liked the point Alex made as he left. Now my follow-up is, if Texas is in, if I tell you right now they're in at 9-3, whose spot are they taking? Is it Notre Dame? Is that the Anwar? Is that the argument?
It's got to be Notre Dame, because it's like to your point. BYU would have to pull off something special that we didn't see in the first game, right? And maybe the second game is a little bit closer.
Especially if you're right about BYU and Alabama and they're both in no matter what, then that's where I would say, okay, if you're going to put Texas in, who do you ask to leave?
It would have to be Notre Dame. It's the hard part is it's the way that the committee.
They're not kicking out a Notre Dame team that's won 9 games in a row.
That's the thing. The hard part is they've positioned Notre Dame in a spot where they're going to be in, right? And so the thing is, we're expecting a committee that's already shown us how they feel to somehow reverse course tonight. I don't know. But to answer your question, that's the only one I can think of. I know.
Me too, because and it is Notre Dame. Their record is what it is, and they have been dog stomping everybody. Yeah. Everybody. I know they're not playing the best schedule. I get it, but they are working their schedule. Like, they are just smashing everybody, and it is hard to ignore that. It's It's tough. Trust me, I'd love a world where Notre Dame gets left out of a playoff. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, but they're not going to give us that world.
I don't think they are either. Clint for 10. Thank you, Clint. If we are taking the 12 best teams, no one can honestly tell me that a 9-3 Texas is worse than a 10-2 OU, 11-1 BYU, etc. I don't think they get it, but they are deserving based on every other resume.
I mean, Texas beat OU head-to-head, neutral field. Oklahoma's not playing exceptionally well lately. I mean, they did beat Bama in Bama. I get it, but it's kind of ugly win. And
how the hell are they 10-2?
I don't know.
I mean, that's guys, there's a couple things that would drive me nuts if I'm a Texas fan, but I don't think anything would drive me more crazy than waiting around for that third OU loss. We all thought that was going to be under our Christmas tree for sure. I thought there was going to be a fourth one too, and it never showed up. Just unbelievable.
Kind of got lucky to beat LSU last week on a busted coverage by LSU. I mean, Oklahoma's they're in, but I mean they're not that. Texas.
I blame Catch for all of this. You know, Catch, and it spent the entire offseason telling everybody how crappy Oklahoma was, how crappy Don Mateer was, how this, Venables isn't good, and all that happened. And he also spent the entire offseason telling us that Clemson was going to compete for a national championship because Clay Kublik was so much substantially better than Quinn Ewers. I blame Catch for this on the noon show. Thank you.
Catch's fault officially. It is now been decided.
Enchiladas didn't do enough for the Catch curse in the off season.
More enchiladas, Catch. That's what you needed to do.
Let's talking crap about other programs. How about that?
A couple small super chats and we'll wrap up. $2 from Jay. It feels like they set it up after the Arkansas win. They did not move much after that Arkansas win. I know a lot of people are in that category. And then a quick one from Zach. With coaches leaving teams, should they be penalized? I guess that's maybe a question about Ole Miss and the committee. I don't think the committee is going to do anything with Ole Miss. I think they're going to sit about where they around 6. I think that's exactly where Ole Miss should be. They should still host the game in Oxford, and they'll have Pete Golding and move on. Like, would y'all adjust at all for Ole Miss?
No. If you lose key players like your quarterback, that makes a little bit of sense, but not because of coach. No.
No. The coach is replaceable. I think people understand that's kind of a one-off kind of situation. That's not happening with all kinds of things. So no, I think you just let them go. It'd be a horrible message to send to college football that you dropped a team out because one individual left. Like, and that guy of all guys, like, no way.
The player thing makes total sense to me. I agree with Jason. Like, the Florida State thing made sense. And then back to the basketball example, I always bring up Kenyon Martin back in the day for the older folks. When Kenyon Martin got hurt and that Cincinnati team got knocked down, I think a full seed line in the tournament, it felt right. It felt like it made sense because he wasn't there. He broke his ankle and it affected the whole team. So I get those, but yeah, I wouldn't mess with that. All right. One super chat just rolled in here from James, $4.99. Not sure, in all honesty, why Texas should have to justify being in the playoff. They have more top 10 wins than any school in the country. James,
they lost to Florida. It's as simple as that, James. You can't lose to Florida. And then, less than stellar wins against Kentucky and Mississippi State. It comes down to the Florida game, man.
Yeah, so far, James, remember, you got to remember, it's not – you can say it's a 12-team playoff, but the number of slots are actually less than that for a team even like Texas. And then combined, you just can't lose 3. We knew those 3 road games were blinking at us talking about Texas. We knew they needed to go 2-1 at least to set themselves up pretty well. We knew if they went 1-2, they had no room for error. And what'd they do? They went 0-3.
Yeah, you couple the Florida loss with a 25-point loss against Georgia, and that's why we're having the conversation. It's just simple. And the Georgia loss, look, if the Georgia loss is respectable, 7 points, 3 points, okay, maybe that's one thing. But then, the way that's the reason why we're having a conversation. It's not as much as the wins you factor in. So it's 2 losses. That's the hard part.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That is fair. James, thank you for that. Got a couple more we will hit real quick on the way out. And also, before we exit, just another little shout out to, well, it's more drinking. It's Deep Eddy Vodka. Head on out to the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room if you like. If you haven't tried the new pineapple, it's out there. Maybe see if they've still got some espresso left for cocktails out there. I'm hoping it'll be the 10th flavor at some point. We'll keep our fingers crossed there. But you got 9 flavors to enjoy. They're open Wednesdays through Sundays. You got the great barbecue on site as well. Deep Eddy Vodka. Tell them that you heard about it on OB Live. Get on out there and get you some of that great vodka. Have a good time. And they got indoor and outdoor seating when things get a little cool this time of year as well. All right.
Like this guy said the dude on the bottom is smart, and Alex is gone, so I'm going to assume he's talking about me.
Look at that. Anwar's got a fan.
He's like, dude on the bottom. Like, I don't know who this guy on the bottom is, but he's smart. I'm like, well, so much for covering this team for 12 years.
Yeah, but I was trying to move my thing down to the bottom real quick. I couldn't figure it out, though.
Jason was trying to rearrange. Clint for 5 will close us out. If BYU loses to Tech again and stays in, then the playoff is a complete joke. Texas should be in over BYU, OU, Notre Dame, just to name a few. I could certainly make all three. I can make all 3 of those arguments, but I do not think the committee is going to make those arguments.
Hey, chat. Oh, go ahead and get that. I have one question.
The only way Texas sneaks in is if they are right behind Alabama tonight and then Georgia wins by 30. That's a path, Hookem. That is a path. It's unlikely, but that is kind of a path to maybe think about. What were you going to say, Anwar?
So the question to me is, when the rankings are revealed tonight, do you feel like that's basically just going to be a preview of what's going to happen on Sunday? Like, do you feel like what we get tonight is pretty much going to be it, with maybe one team potentially, but for the most part, what we see tonight is what we're going to get on Sunday?
I don't think necessarily, because they've shown us that the next to last one, you just asked TCU about the next to last one and then the last one and how they can be drastically different. So I'm going to say that tonight, what to look for to me is the setup. What are they setting up? And they could tell me they don't do this, but how they lay it out will tell me something, because they have to be thinking about the Big 12 title game. Maybe not SEC. If we're all just going to say, look, it's Bama, even if they had 3 losses, they're not going to lose to Georgia by like 4 touchdowns. They'll be in. So it's still about that Big 12 title game. Are they actually going to tell us? Because if they put BYU up, leave them up where they were, the message might be, no, they're in. They're in. But then the other message could be, wait a second, what if Tech does that to them again? It was 29-7 the first time, and it should have been worse. If Tech catches footballs and does everything they're supposed to do in Lubbock, they would have pile-driven BYU. That would have been 56-7. If they really laid it on them, is BYU for sure out? That's kind of the questions they need to be thinking about. So I'm looking at that setup, and then to a team we've mentioned a couple times, where's Miami? Where's Texas is the first question we'll all look for, but where is Miami in respect to Texas and Notre Dame? Because I think they don't want to mess with Notre Dame and Miami. They want to pretend like they're not comparable teams, which is a hilarious thing to say out loud. Same exact record, played head-to-head. Okay, fine.
They have common opponents, all that.
Oh, it's all there. It's all in front of them. But I think they're scared to death of that idea, because they know that only one of those 2 can get in their mind. And they think it's Notre Dame, because it's Notre Dame. It's Notre Dame. Miami's going to get left out. So where do they put Miami tonight to prep Mario Cristobal for his exit? That's why I suggest putting Texas above a team like Miami to create the space, and then say, well, they're not comparable teams. What are you talking about? We don't even talk about Notre Dame and Miami in the same group. It's brilliant, but it's also, to Alex's points, it's also cockamamie, and it feels fraudulent when you are the committee and you do it that way. But I think that's what they're going to do. So I think there's still going to be room for a little bit of shakeup between the last 2.
Cool.
All right. Anything else, fellas? We good? That's going to be your
let's rock and roll.
That's going to be your modcast. Reminder, 6 o'clock tonight is the reveal show, and we're going to make it a Football with Friends reaction show. The fellas, Alex, Cody, they're going to react to it in that 6 o'clock hour. So it's 6 o'clock tonight when we officially find out what happens. Thank you all for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications. We're up over 191,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for that. Obviously, check out the great content that these guys bring you on orangebloods.com each and every day. Let me throw one more QR code up for you, and then we will say adieu. Thank you for supporting us here at Orange Bloods Live.